Okay, so sit yourself on your lift. Just bring yourself into a good cross-legged position. So a little wriggle about, make sure that you feel even. Now this week we've been talking about bringing tadasana into our pose. And, you know, tadasana is the central standing pose. But it also applies to all of the seated poses. We often refer to dandasana in the seated poses. So dandasana is the tadasana equivalent of the seated poses. But even in this cross-leg position, we can start to activate our legs by pressing the outer edge of the foot firmly down into the floor so that the shins become suddenly alert, so that the thighs become alert, and that we can start sucking the hips inwards. And then we can elevate the spine upwards, just as though we were standing in tadasana. So if you were in tadasana, you would have your arms reaching down to the floor. So just stretch your arms down to the sides of you and feel that you can really elevate the spine upwards. It's a really good thing to do first thing in the morning. It just gives you a good energetic stretch. So after a little while, that stretch almost becomes kind of self-holding, if you like, self-perpetuating. Keep lifting the chest, stretching the arms down so that the shoulders draw away from the ears. Turn the palms all the way out to the sides of the room, like we do sometimes in tadasana. And then perhaps you feel that this area of the collarbone opens up and broadens. And then keeping that collarbone area broad, bring your hands into Namaste, lengthen from the armpits into the elbows, from the elbows into the heels of the hands, from the heels of the hands into the fingertips, just looking forwards and down, just looking at something that doesn't move. Listening to the sound of your breath as it enters and as it exits. Filling the lungs to the lining. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. And with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. So continue to tadasanaize the chest, broadening the collarbone. Keeping the muscles around the chest soft so that you can breathe fully into the front, the back, and the side of the ribs. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Make the chest reach up to meet the chin. Spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone. Creating a sense of abundance in the heart area. And then as you release your hands, just hold on to that feeling, bring the palms to face upwards, and then raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open. So get your, stay on your lift and get your belt and have your feet about hip width apart, so that you start off with your feet about hip width apart. You go slightly wider, push the feet into the belt, and then lift and open the chest. So sometimes it's useful to work to tadasanaize our legs in a seated position, because it feels different. Gravity feels slightly different. So what we were doing yesterday, we were playing with dandasana and dog down and tadasana in order to activate our legs and our chest. So initially, I want you to lengthen from the inner groin into the inner heel. So you can do this sitting on the chair. Actually, Juliet, you don't need to sit on the floor for this. Well, you're on the floor now, so that's fine. But you can extend from the inner groin to the inner heel. Feel that you can slide the heels away from the hips. So from the hips into the heels, feeling that the backs of the calves maybe slide across the mat. Press the thighs down into the floor as though someone is standing on them. So they're pressing the thighs down into the shins down into the floor. I think I said thighs then, shins. Press the shins down into the floor like someone is standing on them. And then lift the kneecaps away from the shins, lift them upwards towards the thighs. And lift the thigh muscle away from the kneecap. So you lift it up towards the top of the leg. Again, as though someone is standing on your thighs. So the more you plant your legs, the more you can then elevate up into the chest. Do tadasana with the chest. Feel that the chest lifts, you scoop the abdomen up towards the diaphragm up to the collarbone, feeling that the back chest, the skin of the back chest descends downwards. The skin of the front chest rises upwards. Breathe nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. And then release the belt, but then see if you can maintain the action of the legs. The action of the legs will suddenly kind of drop. So then see if you can reset the action of your legs, pressing the shins into the floor as though someone is standing on them, lifting the kneecaps away from the shins up to the thighs, lifting the thigh muscles away from the kneecaps, and then raise your arm. Bring your arms up and keep them parallel to each other. So if you're working your legs deeply, you're working your arms deeply, what about your spine? So tadasanaize the spine, so lift the hips, squeeze the hips together, feel that there's that tube of toothpaste action in the upper chest. And then turn to the right side, bring your left hand down onto the right knee, dig the back hand into the floor or in the blocks that you're sitting on, and then turn. As you turn, observe whether you kind of lean over to the right side or whether the seat bones feel even. Observe that the legs are working evenly, that the shins feel like there's someone standing on them, the thighs feel like there's someone standing on them. Turn the abdomen, ribs and the shoulders, keep the neck soft. And then come back to the center and then raise your arms up again. Breathe in nice and softly. Listen to the sound of the breath. Just look at your feet. Are they rolling out to the side, or can you tadasanaize the legs fully by rotating the thighs inwards, the shins inwards? And then turn to the left and then bring the arms down, bring the right hand onto the left knee or the outside of the thigh. But as you turn, observe the legs. Do the legs suddenly disappear? Obviously they don't disappear, but do you lose that conscious action in the legs? Lift the spine up towards the ceiling, turn the chest. Breathe nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. And then come back to the center And then just come back into cross legs for a moment, lift and open the chest. Just have a feel that the legs can soften and relax for a moment, because even though you're sitting down, that's still fairly intense on the legs, isn't it? And we'll go down into Adho Mukha Virasana. So Juliet, maybe Supta Baddhakonasana would be better for you. Or you can do that forward bend on the chair that you were doing the other day. So just sit yourself back on your heels and then lift and open your chest. So sit back on your heels and wriggle into the heel. So try and get the outer buttock into the inner heel so that the inner heels roll out a little bit, so that you bring the top of the foot kind of evenly placed, so the little toe side of the foot is in contact with the floor as well as the big toe side of the foot. And then stretch forwards and then just bring your head and your chest forwards. Now, as you come forwards, if you just drop your head immediately, then you find probably that you round in the chest, in the front chest, and you shorten in the front chest. But we want there to be length within the front chest. So if you're, especially if you're avoiding coming forward, so Andrew, this is going to be good for you. So have a block for your head, because when I bring my head all the way down, it makes my the place where my tooth was, it makes it throb a little bit, and I've still got stitches, so I'm avoiding that. So I'm bringing my head onto a block. So everyone, bring your head onto a block, because it makes you lengthen the front chest. So bring your head onto a block, just press the area between the forehead, between the eyebrows, into the block. So you might find that the tall end is too high. So just adjust and find the position where you can stretch forwards while maintaining the lift of the front chest. Spread the fingers, spread the palms. Listen to the sound of the breath. So having pressed the forehead on the lift, then maybe you can just think about moving the lift. But as you bring the head down, you've got to really work to maintain the length of the front chest. So if you feel that bringing your head down makes you lose that lift of the front chest, then go back to the block. Because if the front chest isn't lifted, then it's very hard to breathe. Come up onto all fours, turn your toes under, and then just come up into dog down. So just feel the pose to start off with. Feel where your body is today within the pose. Spread your toes, stamp the big toe into the floor, stretch the little toes out to the side, hit your inner heels away from each other, and then turn your shins inwards. Tighten your kneecaps. Feel that you can press the shins into an imaginary floor behind you. Lift the kneecaps away from the shins and then lift the thigh muscles up towards the top of the leg, pressing the thigh muscles into the bone, turning them inwards, and then again, like someone is standing on the thighs. Breathe in nice and softly. So the more you work your legs, the more perhaps you can feel that there's tadasana in the chest, in the spine. Breathe in nice and softly, in through the nose and out through the nose. Okay, and then step forwards, just come up into standing position. Get yourself some blocks for your hands for uttanasana. Have your feet as wide apart as your mat, turning your toes inwards. Spread your toes. And then I want you to feel as though you are pushing, so you're as if you're against a wall and someone is standing on your shins and they're pressing the shins towards the wall. Lift the kneecaps up away from the shins and then hit the thigh muscles up towards the top of the leg. Turn those thigh muscles inwards and then hit them towards the wall behind you. And then feel that you can extend up into the chest. Have the arms at the sides of the body to start off with, just lifting up into the chest. So the more firmly you activate your legs, the more firmly you can activate your chest. Stretch your arms behind you. Hold onto an imaginary box of air and then keep the front chest long as you come forwards, hinging at the hips, raising that box up towards the singers until you come to halfway. So the front chest needs to continue to lift away from the thighs. Squeezing that box of air and then reach down. So as you reach down, don't let that front chest drop. Maintain that extension of the front chest that you had as you had your arms behind you. If you feel like you've lost it, then stretch your arms behind you again and then lift the chin forwards, lift the chest forwards so that you feel that almost that scooping up action of the abdomen towards the chin. And breathe nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. Press in the thighs into an imaginary wall, press in the shins into an imaginary wall. Like you're pushing the backs of your legs into the wall. You try to push through the wall. Elevate the front chest. Now, if you've got back problems or maybe even eye problems, just stay at this stage. Come down lower otherwise. Breathe in nice and softly, and then come down to the floor if you can. But as you come down to the floor, maintain that consciousness of the length of the front chest. Maintain the action of hitting your legs against the imaginary wall, pressing them firmly into the wall, and then lengthening the front chest. Feel that you can broaden the abdomen. And then don't do this if you've got bad back, but bring the hands around the backs of the heels. Broaden the abdomen out towards the abdominal walls. And then draw the body in between the legs. Let your head hang down. Breathing nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. But all the time maintaining the action of the legs as though you're pushing them against a wall. The shins activate, the thighs activate, the kneecaps lift. So it's often difficult to activate your shins. So it's good to start from dandasana because it's easier in dandasana to activate the shins than it is in some of the standing poses. Okay, and then just release your hands forwards, bring your hands into your hips and then come up into a standing position. Bend your knees on the way up if you need to. And then just come up into tadasana. So just feel that as you come back to tadasana, that as you bring the feet together, you can reactivate those legs, pressing them against imaginary walls. Rotating the thighs inwards, lifting up into the chest. Bring your arms forwards, interlock the fingers, turn the palms all the way up, and then extend your arms up towards the ceiling. Padangusthasana, just to open up the shoulders. But as you raise your arms, what happens in the chest? What happens in the legs? Do you lose that focus? So reset, go back to the legs, hitting the shins towards the wall, hitting the kneecaps upwards to the back of the knee, and then lifting the thigh muscle up towards the hip, turning the thighs inwards, tucking the tailbone in without hitting the legs forwards, lengthening from the abdomen up to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, breathing nice and softly. Lift your toes to activate the legs more firmly. And then bring hands back. Just swap the interlock of the fingers, turn the palms out, and then raise your arms again. So we go back to that passage from Light on Life, where it says that we should try and fill the body with the asana, engaging the circumference and the diameter of every limb. So feel your body, see your body without seeing with the eyes, see through the feeling of the body. And release your arms down. Just bring the arms down and the arms will feel different, more energized, as though there's energy around the skin. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears and lengthen from the shoulders down into the outsides of the arms. Spread the fingers. Keep the toes lifted if you can. And then turn the whole of the palm outwards. So again, you broaden the collarbone. Lift and open the chest. Maintain the action of the legs, the action of the spine. Breathe in softly, in through the nose and out through the nose. And then just completely release, just let go of the legs, let go of the arms. So there's almost that gravitational pull downwards. And you notice maybe that you lose an inch in height. You start to become heavy in the body rather than light. So reactivate the legs, lift and open the chest, and then stretch the arms outwards. Bring the arms out nice and wide in towards the chest, and then step or jump nice and wide with your legs. Turn your left toes in and your right leg all the way out. Now, can you activate those shins? Can you tadasana those shins? Hit them. So this leg is pointing that way, this leg is pointing that way. So imagine that there's a wall behind the leg. There's a wall behind the leg. So press the shins against those imaginary walls. Lift the kneecaps up to the thighs. Hit the thigh muscle into the bone. But this time you turn this front thigh from the big toe side to the little toe side. Can you tadasana your pose? Lifting out of the feet like the feet are stuck to the floor, almost like you're hanging from the ceiling. And then lengthen over to the side. As you come down, do you notice that your weight and your energy droops down into this leg, into this right leg? Or can you maintain that action of tadasana, activating the shins, lifting the kneecaps, lifting the thighs, so that then you get access into the spine? So feel that your feet are kind of like suckers on the floor, and you suck in the feet up, or you suck in the shins up, you're sucking the knees up, you're sucking the thighs up to the hips. And then the hips have this tremendous center of energy, and you release that energy up into the chest. If you can look up or down or forwards, just whichever feels most comfortable for your neck. what's happening with your back leg? Is all of your weight and all of your attention on this front leg, or can you really activate that back leg? Come back to the center. Just release your hands, swap your feet around, turn your right toes in, and the left leg and foot all the way out. So don't do anything for a minute. Just let gravity just get the better of you. Let gravity drag you down. And then you start to feel that maybe the legs kind of bulge outwards, that the spine is kind of just drawing down like a jelly on a plate. So reactivate those shins. So press these shins into imaginary walls. Lift the kneecaps up away from the shins. Lift the shins out of the ankle socket. Lift the shins up, lift the kneecaps up, lift the thighs up. Turn this thigh. Suck the hips together and then extend up into the spine like you're doing tadasana. And then reach over and find the shin. Breathe nice and softly. Feel that you can maintain that tadasana action in the legs in order to maintain that tadasana action in the spine. Lifting the shins upwards, the kneecaps upwards, the thighs upwards, up into the hips, squeezing the hips together, lengthening up into the chest. So that we open up our energy, we open up the shutters that prevent the lightness from looking outwards. So we work from the periphery to the core, and then from the core outwards. Reach up with the top hand, come back to the center, bring your feet parallel, and then step, jump the feet together, and then come back into tadasana. Breathe in nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. Just using your tadasana to bring your breath back. Soften the jaw and in the tongue. And then bring the feet hip width apart, turn your toes in, raise your arms, thumbs into the crease of the elbows, and then hang down in Uttanasana, or or just support yourself if you've got back problems, or you're kind of just so come like this, but work the legs really deeply, otherwise just hang down. But either way, whichever version of the pose that you were doing, might help if I stand in shot, whatever version of the pose that you're doing, activate your legs like you're pushing them into the wall. You're trying to press the fronts of the shins through to the backs of the calves. You're trying to press the kneecap. You're lifting it up to the thigh and pressing it through to the back of the knee. You're lifting the front of the thigh muscle up towards the hip, up towards the crease of the groin, and then pressing that thigh muscle into the bone, pressing the front of the thigh through to the back of the thigh. Turning the thighs inwards. Breathe in nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. And then you can release down into the spine. And then release your arms up. So release your arms down to the floor and then slowly come up into a standing position, and then come down onto the floor and into cross legs. So after really straightening the legs, suddenly bending the knees. So Julia, you can sit on your chair for this. So suddenly bending your knees feels quite a relief, doesn't it? It feels nice to suddenly bring the legs into the kind of into the opposite. So sometimes if people find it difficult to bend their knees, you learn how to straighten your legs. If you can't straighten your legs, you learn how to bend your knees. So that's the kind of the paradox of yoga, isn't it? So just roll over, move the buttock flesh out to the side, and just feel that you're sitting evenly underneath your seat bones. Grip around your knees and lift the chest. So obviously, Juliet, just hold on to your, bring your hands onto your thighs, press them down onto the thighs, just so that you get this lift of the front chest. So feel that you can tadasanaize the spine, almost that you're doing tadasana with the chest. So that there's this lightness, this feeling of elevation in the spine, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Just look down at the, just look forwards, just keep your eyes locked on something that doesn't move. Just take normal deep in breaths, deep out breaths. Just listening to the sounds of the breath as they enter and as they exit. Feeling that you can elevate the spine upwards, that they're almost like the spine is full of helium and it's trying to lift the body up away from the hips. And then release, just let the body release. And then notice how many inches in height you lose as you just let gravity do its thing. So, you know, you kind of really do actually lose height. So Tadasana is good for making us feel a bit taller, and for people of limited stature such as myself, that's always a good thing. So have some blocks to your side, and then just around the hips. So Juliet, we're just going to come over to the side, so you can do this just by kind of, it's all a bit like that baddhakonasana stretch. You're going to just stretch over like that. So just that, so we're just trying to get these kind of side ribs to lengthen. So just lift and open the chest, bring that element of lightness and extension back into your spine, feeling as though the spine is almost like it's full of helium and it's elevating up of its own accord. Then take hold of the underside of your knee and then bring your elbow down onto the block. You can bring it down all the way to the floor, but that I find is too low. But you can bring it onto the floor if you need to. And then, so yeah, you can keep your knee on that, on your thigh, Juliet. Rotate that top shoulder towards the back of the room. Reach up and then extend over. Keep that lifted arm straight. But as you extend over, really work to press the left buttock bone down, because as you reach up, this left buttock bone wants to come with it. So lengthen from the armpit down into that buttock bone, so that you consciously make each buttock bone even in weight. Although it's difficult, isn't it? But you can try. So look underneath the armpit. Feel that there's tadasana in the spine. There's elevation and length. Turn in the chest. And then come back to the center. Just come back into this center and just feel that there is difference in the two sides of the spine, two sides of the abdominal walls. Just breathe nice and softly, lift and open the chest, and then bring your left hand around the underside of the knee, bring your elbow onto the block, rotate this shoulder back so that there's a length from the left hip around to the right shoulder, and then extend up and over. So you get that kind of padangusthasana, baddhakonasana stretch of the side ribs. Breathe in nice and softly. Maintain that element of tadasana in the spine. Feel that you can really lift and open the spine, pressing the right buttock bone down onto the floor. Breathe in nice and softly. And then just gently come back to the center. And then just grip around your knees, lift and open your chest. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. So just breathe nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. And then just bring your feet into baddhakonasana. So Juliet, you won't be able to do this, but you can stay. You stretch your legs out on the. If you can sit on the floor, do dandasana, because it's a similar pose to where we're going. So just do dandasana. If you, I think you need to go actually, don't you? But if you can, then just do dandasana. So push the heels together, lengthen from the inner groin into the inner heel. See you later, Juliet. Nice to see you. Hope your knee gets better. Lift and open the chest, drive the spine upwards. Push the heels together, lengthen those inner groins towards the inner knees. Draw the inner knees around to the outer knees. And then feel that you can really elevate the spine upwards. Breathe in nice and softly, in through the nose and out through the nose. So feeling that the spine can lengthen up, bringing that tadasana action into the spine. And then just gently release. Now we're going to do the pose where you kind of come into ubhaya padangusthasana. I couldn't remember what it's called then. So ubhaya padangusthasana. So you need to be away from the wall, because we're going to come. So we're going to start off in baddhakonasana, and then you just start to gently roll back. You keep the spine lifted, tadasana-izing that spine, and then you just hover with your feet. That's the first stage. And you might just do the first stage, especially if you've got back problems. You might just want to do this first stage. The second stage is where you bring the knees in towards each other, and then you straighten the legs out. And then you've got to really maintain tadasana in the legs and in the spine. So you need to be away from the wall, because there's every chance that you can roll back. And if you roll back, then you might bang your head. So make sure that that was behind me. That would hurt if I landed on that. So just make sure that there's nothing behind you that will feel uncomfortable if you were to land on it. So first stage is just baddhakonasana. So push the heels together, lengthen the inner groins away from each other into the inner knees, and then just feel that you've got that tadasana action in the spine. Use your intellectual body, your cognitive brain, just to assimilate this feeling in the chest with the feeling in tadasana. Does it feel the same? And then lean back and hover with your feet. And then just bring that energy of tadasana into the spine. Feel that there's real lift in the spine. And just hover. So the more stable and secure the spine is in terms of its lift, in terms of its tadasanization, the more balance you will find. And then come back down onto the floor. So what we don't want here is to bring the back into this kind of curve, because then that's when you fall back. So if you start to curve your back, if you start to feel that your back starts rounding, that's when you're going to lose your balance. The back chest has to move in. The front chest has to lift up. The back chest descends down so that the back remains straight. So find that tadasana action and then lean back. See if you can really maintain that sense of tadasana in the spine. And then if you're going further, bend your knees inwards and then see if you can straighten your legs. If you can't straighten your legs, but you want to do the full pose, you can put a belt around your feet. So work the legs as though you're pushing them into the floor. Extend the spine as though you're in tadasana. Breathe nice and softly, in through the nose and out through the nose. Don't worry if you roll back, it's all part of the fun. Turn the legs inwards, the fronts of the thighs inwards. Breathe in nice and softly, okay, and then just gently release. And then just come down onto your back for baddhakonasana. So ubhaya padangusthasana is one of those poses that I've always found it lots of fun to do. Maybe I need to get out a bit more, but I think there's something about ubhaya padangusthasana that's just challenging enough to kind of feel like you're having fun with your yoga. So I find that ubhaya padangusthasana particularly is one of those poses that you can just do that first stage. Sometimes when I'm watching a film on the sofa, I get a bit fidgety. I can't really sit still for very long. And so I sit on the floor, and sometimes I just do that first stage of ubhaya padangusthasana where you just lift the chest and you're in baddhakonasana with your feet, and then you just lean back and you hover. But you can watch telly. You have to bring your legs slightly wider apart so you can see the screen. But you can watch telly in ubhaya padangusthasana. It's one of those poses that, I mean, I don't know if you would watch the whole of an episode of something, but you certainly can kind of just stretch yourself out while you're watching telly. I find yoga and TV quite a good combination sometimes. So breathe nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. Just observe how your body is feeling right now. Broaden the abdomen to the abdominal walls. So that isn't a gripping action, is it? It's a soft, broadening action, but it works. It works if you broaden the abdomen out to the abdominal walls. It flattens the lumbar and it keeps the lumbar soft, but it isn't a grip. It's a broadening. Breathe nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. So we're going to go up into setubandha. So draw your knees together. Have your knees together, your feet apart for a moment, just to kind of counter the action in your hips. And then walk your feet close to the seat bones. Lift the seat bones up. Rotate the triceps around to the biceps so you come right up onto the tops of the shoulders, and then place your brick in the small of your back. Grip around your belt. Make sure you're in a good straight line in relation to your mat. And then either stay with the legs bent or stretch your legs out. You okay there, Andrew? Yeah, I thought you'd fallen on the floor, so you're just reaching for your block. Okay, that's good. Just stretching the legs out, working your legs in tadasana. So even in setubandha, there is tadasana. If your legs are straightened, push the shins towards the floor, lift the kneecaps, lift the thighs, turn the thighs inwards so that you elevate up into the chest. You can find that lightness from tadasana in all of the poses. In headstand, effectively it's tadasana upside down. So you activate your legs in order to activate your spine. So we always start from the floor upwards, but with inversions, you start from the feet upwards, but it's really downwards, I guess, isn't it? You work to elevate the legs. Listening to the sounds of the breath as they enter and as they exit. Feeling that lightness of extension in the spine. that comes from the legs, activating the legs. If your knees are bent, you work your feet into the floor as though you're working in traditional tadasana, hitting the shins back. Hitting the shins back, lifting the kneecaps away from the shins, lifting the thighs up into the hips, and lifting and opening the chest. It's harder with the legs bent, but you can still do it. Okay, everyone lift, walk your feet back to the blocks, lift your seat bones up, and then just adjust your shoulders on the way down as you bring yourself back down onto the floor, and then pull your knees in towards your chest. Have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just giving yourself a gentle massage on the spine. Breathing nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. Okay, and then just rock yourself up into a seated position. Just get your blanket. Have your blanket and fold it into a little kind of pillow shape. Just move all of your equipment out of the way, just so that you can just stretch out without feeling constricted. Make sure you're in a really good straight line. Bring the blanket into the top of the shoulders, so it's supporting the back of your neck, and then just allow yourself to, as long as you're in a good straight line, allow yourself to release into the floor. If you're wearing glasses, it's nice to take them off. Just close your eyes and spend a few moments just observing your breath, observing your energy. And maybe it doesn't take too much to feel that lightness of the energy. Let go completely with the muscles. And then observe the lightness of your energy that rises to the top of the skin, to the upward facing skin. Maybe that energy feels more prevalent around a specific part of the body, maybe the legs or the arms. So use the in-breath and the out-breath to distribute that energy evenly around the body, around the tips of the fingers, the tips of the toes, top of the head. Just basking in the feeling of lightness and energy, as though we have opened up the shutters on the inside to let a little bit of the blissful body shine out. Okay, when you're ready to disturb yourself, just gently wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, just bring your body back into this pose of Shavasana. And then bend your knees in towards the chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just giving yourself gentlest massage on the spine. Just a grounding massage. And then gently roll over onto your right side. And then stretch out your top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just final cross legs with your hands in the masti, just a final spinal lift. Just close your eyes, draw the breath in through the nose, down into the abdomen. Conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, clean, positive energy that the extensions, the forward bends, the twists, the inversions, the tadasanaization of the poses brings to the body and to the mind. And then just draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment just to acknowledge the positive energy you created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out to the world. And then just gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel as though you have given yourself a little bit of a glimpse of that energy, that blissful energy that comes from the inside, and you can bring that into your day. So thank you very much.